And welcome to my channel. Now I'm a little bit later in the month, so I've decided to completely skip the full moon information because I'm pretty sure that by the time I upload this, the full moon would have passed. So it's kind of not really helpful, if it's already happened. Yeah, so what I'm just going to do is cover a couple of aspects leading up to the new moon, and then of course the new moon information about that. So let's jump in. And if you're new and you haven't watched these before, on the left here is the tropical system, which goes by the seasons. So it chops up the sky into neat 30-degree sections. On the right here is the topocentric true sidereal system, which takes into account the actual size of each constellation. So it has a more accurate placement for everything because it's according to where it is in the actual sky if you look through a telescope. So yes, so with that being said, um, I generally um, work with the right side, but I try to sort of show you guys with the tropical system where things are. So this one is the 19th of May. And I really hope I get it uploaded before the 19th because, yeah, anyway, let's go. Um, we've got a T-square happening regardless of what system you use. It's still going to, the aspects are still going to be the same. Um, so, yeah, over here it's saying it's Moon in Aquarius, Mars in Leo, and then Mercury in Taurus. But over here, we've got Moon in Capricorn and Mercury in Aries. And I've really done it bad. And Mars in Cancer. I'm going to redo those drawings because they're terrible. um, but yeah, I never get used to that. Okay, so yeah, Moon, this is the system where, like I said, that it takes into account the size of the constellations. So I'm going to go by this one because it's more accurate with the actual, yeah, placements. Anyway, so we've got ourselves a T-square, meaning there's an opposition with Mars and the Moon, and then the Moon's squaring Mercury, but Mercury's also squaring Mars. So, and Mars is the ruling planet of Aries. I don't know if you just heard my little bird in the background, but anyway. Mars is the ruling planet of Aries, which is quite interesting because Mars is still in the late degrees of Cancer, where he's the most unhappiest. So he's having a beef with the Moon, and the Moon is about, you know, what we need to feel safe, security, comfortability, and that's in Capricorn, which is actually the opposite sign of the where the moon is the ruling planet of Cancer, which is the opposite of Capricorn. Here it's easier to see because they chop it into neat 30-degree sections. The Capricorn and Cancer are exact opposites. So essentially, Capricorn is the descendant of Cancer, and Cancer is the descendant of Capricorn, if either of those were your rising signs, if that makes sense. So we've got a little bit of a tough thing going here in terms of communicating, taking action to communicate, about how we can feel safe to uh, be ambitious because Capricorn's about career, ambition, taking the lead, yeah, stepping up to the plate kind of thing, getting organized. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear my little bird in the background, but he's just going to do what he does. um, but yeah, anyway, so we'll keep going. Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but there's been some tough aspects going on at the moment, um, which has sort of been sort of throwing me around a bit myself. I don't know, if there's anyone who has been sailing through perfectly and not being affected at all, let me know how you do it, because yeah, I've been sort of up and down, with all these energies flying around at the moment, especially with Pluto being in retrograde. But here we've got, talking about Pluto in retrograde, because this is the 19th coming up. Um, yeah, I think the 19th would be mm, Monday, on a Monday, I think. Yeah. So anyway, with Pluto being retrograde, it's definitely about going within. Retrogrades are always about needing to go within. But here we've got a trine, which is not a difficult aspect, where we've got this T-square happening, and we've got some struggle to try and get ourselves, to try and be ambitious, but feel safe to communicate and take action, kind of thing. Here we've got the Pluto retrograde is actually trining the sun and um, Uranus, which is about wanting to break free and wanting to be non-conformative. This is actually trining. So we've got that easier, because trines are easy go, easy flow. Sextiles are opportunities. You see some sextiles jumping in here as well. Are opportunities, to take some action in some way, which is beneficial. And in a similar way, so are trines, but trines are more easygoing, that we can kind of choose to work with the energies or not. Either way, the blue, the blue means good and the red means bad. It's just pretty much simple as that. So yeah, so we've got those gentler energies with quite a powerful planet being Pluto, but it's about going within. And purging. Now, Pluto's in Capricorn, true sidereal. So yeah, so it's about purging. Yeah, career ambition, but it could also be about like being in the spotlight or taking the lead, or what sort of, maybe, boss are you? What sort, if you're in a higher up position, because that's what Capricorn also covers. Now, that's looking within and trining to the sun and Uranus. So it's they're easier aspects to work with. And this is also with Capricorn and Taurus. Taurus can be about money, where this is career, which is Capricorn, which are two, very well linked energies in that sense. Or it could be a self-worth thing, about taking a more managerial position in some way, or a higher up CEO, whatever position, something like that. And it's going within, about, with the idea of asking yourself, if it's what you want to do, if it's something, either you need to purge fears around it, or maybe you need to purge being in that position, and sort of having more freedom to do what you want to, and breaking free from restraints, really. It could go either way, but with the trine, it's actually giving you that easier choice if you want to look into those energies. Whereas these squares and this opposition being, forming a T square, is more difficult energies. And like I said, Mars rules Aries, and Mars is not happy right now, but he will be soon when he moves into Leo. But for now, when we have the 19th, it's gonna be challenging to try and work with that energy. Now, you've obviously seen also we've got Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune. Now, this particular aspect is going to pretty much be with us most of the month, this Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune. So that's also not easy because for me, I've had to really take a hard look at what I'm, how do I put it? What I'm allowing to ruminate about, perhaps. Because Jupiter's about expansion, but when it's squaring, it's sort of like, because Jupiter's the co-ruler of Pisces and co-rules with Neptune in the Pisces sun. But here we've got them squaring each other. So and Neptune is nebulous. So it's sort of like Jupiter wants to expand and, but it's fighting with Neptune to not be too in the head. And Saturn wants things to be serious, but so that the idea of trying not to allow us to ruminate, because that's sort of what I've been feeling lately in the lead up to this, at least anyway. I'm not sure how I'll feel on this day, on that particular day, but I have been up and down with a bit of rumination about past things, yeah, so, and because Chiron is still in Pisces, so that's another sort of thing where it's, ruminating about the past. But yeah, taking a serious look, it could be taking a serious look at, addictions or things like that. And what we're allowing too much of or not enough of, or maybe we're being too restrictive, and we need to be a bit more easygoing. And there's this push-pull sort of feeling because Saturn likes to put on the brakes, and not Neptune. Jupiter likes to be expansive and expand. So there's this push-pull sort of energies as well. I don't know if you can hear that noise, but it's raining, so I can't really I don't want to stop recording right now. So we're just going to go with it. So at first it was my bird, and now it's the rain. So it's like, great, yeah, whatever. But yeah, so again, it's in Taurus, so it's what we value, who we value. This could come into it too, because Venus is still in Pisces as well. But again, the main things here being that Jupiter's squaring Saturn and Neptune, thankfully not Venus. But yeah, Venus is still in Pisces, so there's still that effect in terms of the conjunction. So if that makes sense. But yeah, so I think that's going to be a bit of a difficult deal in that sense, trying to work with this T-square of trying to communicate and being, organized, getting organized, or either leaving a higher up position or considering going into one. So those things might come in, in our experience to have to deal with. But yeah, essentially Pluto is about going retrograde is about going within and purging whatever is stopping us. And this is a good opening for us, with it being trining the sun and Uranus, to look at what needs to be purged, and, connecting that with working through the tougher energies of the T-square of Moon, Mercury, and Mars. Hopefully this is making sense, but yeah, I'm sort of getting a little distracted with that rain. But anyway, what else do I want to say here? I mean, there's some smaller aspects here that are easier, but I mainly like to focus on dealing with the bigger, more tougher aspects in that sense. Oh yeah, there's also with Mars trining Venus as well. So they're not fighting each other. So that's another good thing, taking action with, you know, our values, what and who we value, which comes into here again with Taurus, what and who we value, with Jupiter and the Sun and Uranus being in Taurus. So it may well be about relationships, which ironically, with True Sidereal, the full moon was actually in Libra, and not tropical Scorpio, which it's sort of like, if it would have been in Scorpio, you'd know, because it's quite intense. I mean, the intensity is really coming from Pluto at the moment, I think, among other things like the T-squares and that sort of thing. But yeah, so for me, the full moon, it's about relationships of all kinds, but yeah, I've had to sort of look into how I'm going to be working with that. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much about that because it's sort of something I've got to work through. But yeah, anyway, I think I've covered this. I didn't want to make too long a video, but I still wanted to get some information in. If hopefully I'm making sense. But I feel like I'm sort of a bit distracted with all the noises. But anyway, so I think that we'll leave this one here and go on to the next one. So the next one, so we're dealing with the T-square and trying to work out the best way forward, and what it actually means for us, for each of our rising signs, and what house these signs hit for each of us according to our rising signs. Yeah, because Capricorn might be in your eighth or your fourth, or, you know, who knows, depending on what your rising sign is. But the actual energies themselves, you know, that gives you some idea of what might be coming through, and what to look at trying to work with, what energies and how to work with, kind of thing. That's my aim. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next aspect. So as I've written here, Pluto's squaring Chiron. Let's get this back up. Now, again, over here, see, now we've got the square going here to Chiron. I don't know. Anyway, Pluto's over here in Capricorn. As I said, a telescope will show you that these are the sizes, the true sizes of the constellations, and of course it includes Fucus. Yeah, so we've got the square happening here to Chiron that is still in Pisces, and Pluto in Capricorn. So we've got the gentle sign of Pisces, but Chiron, you know, about our this is kind of heavy. This is our wounds and everything, from early, you know, it can be from very way back, and now we've got retrograde looking within. Oh, I really have to draw it better than that. This is not my vocation. Okay, so yeah, so because Pluto's retrograde, he's already expecting us to look within personally, you know. I mean, on a more global scale, it could be looking within at certain things we're allowing, certain things put in place, or routines, or things that have been structures, and things that perhaps aren't really working in our best interest, sort of thing. It could be in that sense on a more open global scale. But for us personally, it's about looking within. All retrogrades are about looking within. And as we talk about within, we've got Chiron in a gentle sign of Pisces. And here we've got the Capricorn Pluto. So there's this sort of seriousness again with the Saturn ruled Capricorn, but Saturn's in Pisces as well. So we've got the sort of the back and forward here going again. So there may also be the fact that Saturn is actually the ruling planet of Capricorn, yeah, but Saturn is actually in Pisces, which is conjunct really, although it's quite a few degrees out though. But it's in the same sign. Saturn's in the same sign, so there could be a more wiser way of approaching dealing with past issues, but there's a need to purge things that are holding us back. There's a strong need. We're probably going to feel that quite strongly on the 24th, on or around it. For some, it might be the 23rd, actually. But it's the 24th over here in Australia. Yeah, so there's going to be that difficulty in that sense, with the need to take on the challenge of purging some issues from the past. I mean, we can't just click our fingers and be completely healed. There's always going to be something, and often it will happen that we think everything's fine, and then bam, something will happen and we're triggered, which we didn't ever expect. And then we're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that part of me wasn't, really healed or needed healing or whatever, Could be like that. And as I said earlier with Jupiter and Neptune and Saturn having that square pretty much for the whole month, that's still running, as you can see there, with the expansion and growth and self-worth, could be coming into it. How we deal with our relationships might be a thing as well, and it may have something to do with what we hold on to from the past, which could be a thought pattern, or a perception or a belief system, not necessarily religion or organized religion, but it's a way that believing a certain thing is a certain way, or a certain thing has to be a certain way, or whatever, might just be encroaching on how we deal with our relationships, because Taurus is about values, what we value, not just money, but I usually say money and self-worth, but it's what and who we value, including ourselves, which therefore includes self-worth. And so, yeah, so we've got Jupiter wanting to expand, Saturn wanting to say, hang on a minute, don't go so fast with your expansion, and look into the depths of things, look through the fog. Saturn's pretty much, I think, saying, let's take a closer look at a spotlight, shine a spotlight through the fog so we can see clearly what's going on. So yeah, I think that a lot of us are probably going to have some heavy feelings, perhaps, if we don't want to be open to looking into perhaps any triggers or whatever. Because here we've got the moon is also in Pisces at that point, I didn't mention with the previous one around the 19th will actually be the third quarter square. So this is past the third quarter square. But yeah, so this is leading up to the new moon, but it's still full moon energy. So yeah, so we're looking at definitely what might be triggering or blocking us in some way. And as I said, we're still working with Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn with their square. So that's a challenge as well. But like I said as well earlier, that challenge is pretty much going the whole month for us. So these are the ones that are jumping in and then jumping out kind of thing. So this is an opening for us to take the challenge on, to look into what may be triggering us, or some of us, or what might be a block for some of us that we have to look into. So I think that we in turn can use both of these squares together to clear away some sort of fog and confusion, shine a light. Saturn wants us to take a considered look at these things to clear away anything that's it might be sabotage too, because we do have it is Pisces and Neptune as well. And with the moon, again, like I said, what we feel we need to feel safe, or what we perceive we need to feel safe. And the moon is also in Pisces at this point by that time, that date. Yeah, what else can I say about the good thing here is that Mars has now moved into Leo by that time. So that's going to have a bit of a more enjoyable way of what's the word for it? Being in the spotlight, being creative. It's also loosely trining Venus still. So that's good. And now it's in Leo, which makes it that bit easier rather than it being uncomfortable in the Cancerian sign. But there's no T-square on this one because it was on the 19th and it's gone by the 24th. What else? Again, Pluto is trining, well, Pluto's still trining the Sun and Uranus at this point, but there is a bit of a move away. And I think it is also starting to trine Mercury as well. So the idea of communication isn't so difficult, and Mercury's now jumped into Taurus. So there's that more easier way to communicate Taurian values and themes, money, self-worth, who we value, what we value. But yeah, the main issue or main thing we need to do here is if we feel the need to take on that challenge of working within, going within and purging whatever is perhaps holding us back or stopping us or triggering us in some way, because if we don't deal with it, it's continually going to block us, or it's continually going to be a trigger that it'll keep going until we deal with it. And this is an opening, I think, to take on that challenge, to deal with anything if we feel there's something like that coming up for us. Okay, so hopefully I've made sense with this. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I'm just, it's just coming through like this. So to me, it makes sense, but yeah, I don't know how I come across, but anyway. So the next one again is, as I said, we're leading up to the new moon. So not there yet. So now we've got the 25th, which is pretty much the next day. And so we've got Pluto squaring the moon now. So over here, we've got Pluto over here, still retrograde. Moon's over here. And again, we've still got the same aspects of Neptune and Saturn with Jupiter. So Pluto's over here. Oh, I'm really terrible at drawing. What about, yeah, that one needs to be clear. Let's go again and draw it again. Okay, so Pluto's in sidereal Capricorn and still retrograde and squaring the moon in Aries. So this one's going to be interesting because Aries wants to take the lead in a sense, sort of the me. What do I want? What do I need to feel comfortable, to feel safe? And this again is about being ambitious, being the top of the rung, being a CEO or wanting to not be. And again, it's still a matter of purging. So we've still got Aries is really the first out of the first out of the gate, the me, what do I want? What do I need to feel safe with the moon in Aries? It can be fiery. The emotions can kind of run high with Aries because it's, the war sign sort of thing. Mars is also, the ruling planet of Aries, but we've got Mars still slightly trining Venus. So Mars is still happier in Leo and trining Venus. So that's still easier energies. So we don't have any intensity coming from Mars per se, but the moon is in Aries. So there's probably going to be some sort of emotional outbursts, perhaps, if we don't take the challenge too well, and pushing forward, being aggressive, about whether we do or don't want to take a high position, or about someone in a high position. Perhaps maybe there's some anger at someone who's in a high position, or someone in a high position is angry about something. It could come across that way. There could be some fieriness. Aries is quite, Leo is passionate as well, but Aries is passionate, but more so about themselves, if that makes sense. They're sort of like, how do I put it? We've all got Aries in our chart, so it's not any beef towards just anyone who's got Aries mainly in their chart. We've all got Aries anyway. But when we've got something, because see, this is career and ambition and climbing the ladder and all that sort of thing. And it can also be about being angry at certain rules and regulations, perhaps. Because if something, how do I put it? If something is going on that we have a certain measure of passion about, like feel passionate about it, good or bad, especially we're talking about, because we're still in full moon energy here, because we haven't yet hit the new moon, see, by the 25th. So, when there's something that we feel isn't fair, perhaps we can, in the moment, get ourselves, highly passionate, highly overly emotional, but not, how do I put it? Not like in a pool of tears, like with a water sign, but we sort of have, there could be outbursts, is what I'm trying to say, if we're not sort of being careful with this energy, if that makes sense, because it's our emotions, what we feel we need, or what we perceive we need to feel safe. And if we feel that something is threatening that safety, we might have an outburst of some kind, or someone might have an outburst. I really feel someone's going to have an outburst in some sense with the moon in Aries and Pluto in Cap, because there's a need to purge something. And like I said earlier before, it can be personal, but also it can be on a more larger scale. If there's a few people who are feeling that there's some unfair rule or regulation or way of doing something within a work environment or some sort of career aspect, or someone who has a certain level of power that perhaps are um, not not doing it in the best interests of the other, the other people. Well, they're going to be thinking of themselves first, and thinking, well, this person isn't doing, or this rule isn't what's making us happy, kind of thing. I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but with the moon being in Aries, we really have to sort of take a step back in a sense, because we can tend to get emotional outbursts, not sort of in a pool of tears, but more aggressive and emoting how we feel, or if we feel hard done by, or which we may well be, if we feel we need to speak up about some injustice, well, of course, we're going to have a hell of a lot of passion about injustices. So it's going to come out. So it may not happen with absolutely everyone, a lot of the time people can pass through these energies and see someone else going through it, or hear about someone else going through it. And quite frankly, I think that something may even come on, I don't know, the news, or we'll hear about something or someone. I believe we'll hear about that there's going to be some sort of aggressive outburst about either someone not not being genuine in some sense, or trying to control, Saturn, um, um, Capricorn, the control factor. And see, this needs to be purged. If there's an issue like that, it does need to be purged. And sometimes, unfortunately, especially with the moon in such a powerful sign like this, there's, Aries, and Mars ruled Aries, the war planet, there's going to be some sort of aggressive outburst. So there, hopefully it's not going to be something too bad, but I think there'll be a few different expressions of that in different areas, I think, globally, where we're going to hear about things like that in some sense, that the people rising up and saying, we don't want the systems to be having so much control. It could be something big like that, or it could be some some group or something, I guess. It also depends on what your rising sign is and where exactly Capricorn and Aries hit in your chart. But hopefully you yourself won't have to deal with these energies yourself. But I can guarantee that we will hear something about someone or people speaking up and saying about me, injustice of some sort, with whoever's got holding the reins and perhaps aren't doing right by others, if that makes sense. Yeah, but there's going to be quite a bit of fire, I think, on or around the 24th, 25th. I say the 24th because over here in Australia, it's going to be the 25th. But like UK and US are probably going to get it on the 24th. But yeah, this one seems to me that it's going to be a bit gnarly, because we've still got also, like I said, Jupiter is still going to be squaring Neptune and Saturn. So there's the need to take a serious look at perhaps manipulation, manipulation from higher ups, perhaps, that is not in the best interest of the people, the individuals. Individual. This is the most individual sign, is Aries, Well, Sag is too, but Sag isn't so much wanting to fight. Sag just wants to sort of go roaming around doing his own thing. But Aries is like, wants to stand up and go, no, I don't like the way this is happening. I don't like this happening to me. I want that to happen to me instead, or whatever, And this was where we had a while back with that particular movement we had that had a hashtag to it, where people were speaking up and saying, well, that happened to me as well. I'm trying to say it in a roundabout way so it doesn't sort of get the algorithm jumping around. But that was when, in True Sidereal, Uranus was in Aries. Me, the me movement, kind of thing that, I think most of you know where I'm sort of trying to get to, but it was in Aries because it was talking about the individual. And yeah, and rising up and saying the injustices aren't acceptable. And this again might be a similar vein, with this square around the 24th and 25th. Like, I guess in a smaller capacity because it's around about 1 to 2 days before it tapers off. So yeah, so mainly it's going to be on this day though. But I think it'll taper off by the following day, actually, by 26th. Yeah, so yeah, this one is particularly, I think, quite gnarly. This one's going to be, and I forgot to, but I did it earlier. There, the link there. So yeah, so over here, Taurus and Aquarius is what they're saying it is, but see how things play out and really take note of what sort of topics came up, what sort of things happened, what themes came up, because this is how we work out, okay, is it really this sign or is it that one? Because this one shows through the telescope that this is where it is. But this is chopped up to be a system. I mean, I put in the actual description box a video link. I always do that to another channel, which I'm not associated with or affiliated with in any way whatsoever. But she's a tropical astrologer, and she herself admits that the tropical system has absolutely nothing to do with the correct placements of anything in the solar system at all. Whereas this does, because you look through a telescope and this is where everything is. So you've got to kind of wonder, okay, if I'm following this system because of the seasons, because the seasons were man-made as well. They're chopped up in a certain way to be, the seasons come and go as they do, yes, but we specify that it's always on these dates. But if we were to use the sidereal system, we'd see that it's actually, in different constellation time frames. I don't know if I'm making sense with that one though, but yeah. So what I'm trying to get at here is, if you stop to take note of the themes that come up, are they going to be around finances and values of self-worth and money, and people that we value, which there's no fieriness and no aggression with that, is there? And neither is there with Aquarius. Aquarius is a friendly sign, groups, social circles. So those themes would be what you're looking at, rather than if someone's being hot-tempered and talking about injustices of people that perhaps shouldn't be in places of power. That's just an example. But for me, I like to sort of think, okay, what exactly are the themes that are coming up with these particular energies at any point, at any given time, if there's specific aspects coming up. Okay, tropical says this, sidereal says that. Okay, what exactly happened and what themes were around what happened or what was going on or what is going on. And if you really take note of, is that really that sign or is it that sign, you know? And and then you'll start to see for yourself what makes sense and what perhaps doesn't make as much sense, if I can say it like that. That's how I look at it anyway, because I like to question things. I like to look into things. I like to make things make sense, you know? And if it doesn't seem to make sense, then I'm like, oh, you know, let me take a bit more of a look at that to find out what does make sense. Because there's only so much you can explain away, you know, until you realize, well, actually, you know, if you're talking about the Aries sign versus the Taurus sign, they're very different signs. So very different things are going to come through, just like I said with the friendship social circles versus higher ups and structures and organization. There's a very different feel to both of those. So it's about, are we prepared to take note of these things, because then we can know what we're working with, when we're needing to work with it, and how we can work with it, if that makes sense. You know, how, you know, to have a heads up with these tougher energies that are coming along, to understand them that bit more, so that we can it always comes back to so that we can have a better quality of life, really. You know, and why wouldn't we want to get as close as possible to the accurate signs and energies? Why wouldn't we want to do that, so that we can, you know what we're working with properly, and get things sorted properly, be aware of certain energies so we can, you know, keep our cool perhaps while the moon is running through Aries, you know, that sort of thing. I think I'm getting on a rant, but anyway, so we're going to move on. I think that I've covered this now. So the next one is, in fact, the new moon. So we're finishing with the new moon. So yeah. And so now, as you can see, if you haven't already, whether it's tropical or sidereal, we can see we've only got the Jupiter aspect left, which is like, it's really like a sigh of relief, quite frankly. Over here, tropical is saying that the new moon would be in Gemini, which is about communication, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, neighborhoods, small local communities, local travel. Again, all the themes. Now, tropical is saying it's that, but here, sidereal is saying we're going through Taurus. So what we value, and again, money, self-worth, what and who we value. And like I said, thankfully, there's a bit of a sigh of relief. It's never going to be a sigh of relief if I have to draw, because I'm terrible at drawing. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, that is the only square we're getting, the only difficult energy we're needing to deal with, because Pluto is sextiling now and trining a few different planets. What have we got? Mercury, the Sun, and Uranus. Pluto's trining, which is really good energy. And then it's sextiling Saturn and Neptune. So it's really like a bit of a grand trine. It's a bit of a yeah, because I can see a trine. But yeah, so in any case, it's a lot easier. The energies we're gonna notice the difference, especially straight up with this Taurus new moon. You know, there's just, I feel like whatever difficult energies we've been sort of sailing in and out of leading up to the new moon, it's going to be like it's going to be kind of, I feel like a sigh of relief, really, that certain things are come to pass and we've done what we could to deal with it, or we're aware of it. It's not upsetting us as much anymore. But we've still got Jupiter, the challenge of Jupiter squaring Neptune and Saturn, but with Pluto trining and sextiling with all those energies, with the purging idea of things, it's I think, making things a lot easier to deal with this particular square here, if that makes sense, because there's so many good energies running around that are easy. And again, we've got Mars not only trining Venus, but also Chiron. So it's almost like a buffer, would I say? It's almost overriding in a sense, but the square is still here. But see also the fact that I probably should have drawn the one over here as well. But again, it's Jupiter in Taurus and Neptune and Saturn still in Pisces. But yeah, it's almost like because it's been running the whole month, we're pretty much used to that energy. So it might almost be like we don't even really notice that, if that makes sense, because we've had it all month. So it hasn't been something that's gone boom, in and out kind of thing, like the moon in Aries in the previous chart. But yeah, so I feel like we're already used to this square energy that we've been dealing with the whole month. So it's nothing new kind of thing. So then we're able to focus, or there's more of a focus maybe on all these easier, gentler, easygoing energies. So to me, I think that we're going to have a really, really good new moon in Taurus. And like I said, Taurus, the bull, is about the stability as well. Money, having our finances stable. It's the better money sign and money house, whereas the eighth house in Scorpio is quite tough and also about shared resources. But this doesn't necessarily mean we're sharing things, but we can, if we choose, that's the Taurus thing. It's just about luxuries and enjoying things, what we value, who we value, including our self-worth. And so all those things will be coming up. And that's got nothing to do with Gemini. It's like I ran through the Gemini themes when we first looked at these two charts. But yeah, again, take notice of what comes through. But this might also be where Taurus might be in your third house. So by default, there might be Gemini themes. There might be something like that, or there might be some aspect in your own chart where Gemini aspects Taurus, or the third house, but yeah, in general, the main themes will be Taurus, but what and who we value, food, gourmet food, even luxuries, luxury food even, but luxury items. But yeah, because there's so much good energy here, I think that it's a welcome change to all the heavier energies that were running through back and forward in the lead up to the new moon. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think the last month or two, the new moons have actually had some pretty easy aspects, if I remember rightly, which is really nice. But yeah, again and again, now it's pretty much the same. So everything from Pluto is easy aspects as well, even though Pluto's retrograde and wanting us to purge and look at things like that. It's going to be a lot easier to do that sort of work because there's so many easy aspects running around, and I really feel we're going to feel the more easygoing. I know that's more, it can be Pisces and Sag with the easygoing idea of things. I'm not really sure how else I want to explain it though, that just the more gentler, more easy flowing, but also, with the sextiles, the opportunities, opportunities opening up, the opportunity for an easy way to purge, and the phoenix rising kind of, the stereotype of that, in a good way though, because this is the only hard energy is this square to these two planets from with Jupiter. But like I said, I feel like because we'll be so damn used to it by then that it'll be like, oh, is that still squaring? It's going to kind of be like that. But yeah, there's just so many more good aspects running around on this day. I think that around on and around these particular few days of this new moon is going to be really fantastic. So new moon in Taurus, I'm all for it with all these easier aspects. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything else I need to say. Because there's lots and lots of trines and the sextiles to everything. It's just generally everything's just going to feel a lot easier, a lot calmer. We had the storm of, what was it, the 25th, where Aries moon was by this time. And so it'll be a welcome change to have all these really nice energies flowing and working in our favor. Again, hopefully this has made sense. To me it does, but I don't know. But yeah, all in all, we've got a few gnarly bits and pieces leading up to the new moon. The full moon will have some gnarly bits and pieces too, but as I said at the start, I didn't want to include it because I was pretty sure I'll be uploading sometime after the full moon, and I don't know exactly how long after because I've sort of had a bit going on. But yeah, so hopefully you guys have found this helpful and it's made sense. It's made sense to me, but but hopefully it's made sense to someone out there at least anyway. So, but yeah, so hopefully it's given you guys a bit of an idea of what energies are coming up and what examples might be in your experience, so you can sort of think to yourself, okay, well, these examples were given, what would be playing out in my, experience, or you might see it outside of, like you might experience it in terms of by default through someone else's experience. So you won't have to be here. Hopefully it'll be like that more, that you'll be more from in the background kind of thing, if that makes sense, that you'll go, whoa, I'm glad I'm not in that storm kind of thing. Which is ironic since it's raining over here at the moment as I'm talking about storms. But yeah, again, leading up to the new moon, but by the time this new moon hits, things are going to be a lot easier. And so I'm so looking forward to when that comes up, counting down the days. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this new moon. Yeah, so I think I'll leave it there. And again, like I said, hopefully it's made sense to you guys out there and that it's been helpful. But yeah, that it gives you some idea of how it might be playing out for you and how you can work with those energies, what sort of energies to look out for, so that you know what you're working with kind of thing. That's the idea I have behind all this, to try and be helpful in some way anyway. Hopefully it is. But yeah, so I'm going to leave it there and wish everybody all the best of luck working with the energies leading up to the new moon, and then of course just really diving into the Taurus new moon and yeah, and allowing ourselves some luxuries, I think, with Taurus. I think by the time we get to the Taurus new moon, we're going to need to be pampering ourselves after all the tougher things we've gone through, up in and out through the month. Because yeah, there's some diabolical, I want to say, gnarly diabolical energies. But we can make it through. So yeah, I'll leave it at that and wish you guys all the best of luck with this month, with the rest of this month, and uh, catch you next month with next month's astrological highlights. And yeah, so all the best of luck with working with the energies, and till next time, bye for now.